let's step to the side here and just go along with what they're claiming, that Robin isn't the one pulling the strings, and Kody just is loving that she's so loyal and respects his decisions so much. If that's the case, then maybe he just finally got a taste of a woman that is willing to, for lack of better words, bow before him and do his will. And he says, "Oh, I like this. This is way better. And now I want all you other women. I don't care about the last 30 years. Now I want all of you to do the same thing. Go, bow. And if you don't bow, then we have a problem, because guess what? I'm the patriarch of this house." Welcome back, everyone. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
I grew up in the FLDS community. It is a polygamous group run by Warren Jeffs, and I moved out when I was 18 years old.
I was raised LDS. Sam and I have been married for 9 years and have 2 awesome kiddos.
Yes, we do.
Wait a minute. I have to say, 10 years ago today, Sam proposed to me.
Wow, I totally remembered that. Yay. That's crazy. We want to quickly thank our donors, YouTube members, and our patrons over on Patreon. We really do appreciate your support.
Yes, we are back with our Fresh Eyes on Sister Wives. This is the last season that bridges the gap between these 16 seasons of us going back and watching and learning all about the Brown family, and season 18, where our journey with the Sister Wives began. Yeah. And we know everyone had told us, you guys know nothing about these people. And we were like, yes, but now we truly understand how little we knew. And season 17 is the last one to close that gap. And a lot of things that happened in this one, they kept showing as like flashbacks in season 18 when we were watching the first time.
It all makes sense now.
And it's all together. It's full circle now. So
it's crazy to finally have watched it all now at this point. That's a lot of time that we'll never get back. No, I'm just kidding. It's been a journey though. I will say that. And before even getting into season 17, my gosh, I wish we could just pretend that they're all actors and this was just a movie, because I don't like to say things negatively about people. I really don't. I don't like to look at someone and just talk negatively about them. There were moments in this one that, were just hard. So
Sam was livid.
Can we just pretend that they're actors and this didn't really happen?
The character of Cody, babe. Tell us how you really feel.
The character of Cody, exactly. Oh, my goodness. But we'll get into it. Just know in advance that it pains me to have to admit that someone was just, what do I even call him? I don't know. I'm sorry. I have a hard time trying to figure out how to talk about Cody without seeming very negative.
Yes. I think everyone that's watching this is probably okay with your negativity
right.
for a moment. If you can give Sam an excuse for one episode being really negative instead of his normal positive, look at the bright side self.
Yeah.
And this will be the episode. And
this isn't me claiming that everyone else in the show is perfect. I'm not saying that either, but I am just saying that there have been many, many times that Cody would say something, and I almost had to pause it and jump out of my seat. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Especially now, because with season 18, we didn't really know what he had said and done beforehand. But now we know what he had said just a season before or a couple seasons before. And now he's saying this and treating people like this. And so it was a very, very frustrating season. I'm sure you can all agree it was a hard one to watch. You even mentioned that at one point.
Yeah, it was definitely the hardest season to watch. I think it was even harder than season 18. Because at that point, you could tell everyone was just like donezo. Mm-hmm. But this one was hard to watch. I think the main themes of this one would be Cody's contradictions. That's what we could just title it. Season 17, Cody's contradictions.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a lot, but we'll get into what happened in season 17. And there's quite a bit too about like where everyone is on their religious journeys, which was very intriguing to us, obviously. And at the end, we will kind of summarize our thoughts on, after seeing all of this, which pieces of this are like individual people to blame, which part of it's polygamy. Right? Yeah. Which is why we started watching the show in the first place, was because everyone wanted us to compare what it was like for Sam to grow up in polygamy versus the Brown family. And as you watch things fall apart, it's kind of evident that, okay, polygamy isn't everything that Cody thought it would be or that his wives thought it would be. And wherein lies the problem? Like, is it polygamy that's the problem? Is it the people practicing it that it's the problem? Is it the way it's practiced that's the problem? And kind of evaluate and dissect that a little bit.
Yep.
So the beginning of this season, it starts pretty heavy, kind of right off the bat, about what's going on with Christine. At the end of season 16, we see the conversation between Christine and Cody where they're like breaking up. But it kind of picks back up there, talking about Christine saying, like, if you don't want a real marriage, you need to man up and tell me. Every time she asks him a question in any of their talks, I feel like she's like talking to a child, trying to help him come to the same conclusion. Like, you know what the right choice here is, Cody. You know that you're not happy. You know that you're miserable. Will you please just admit it? Right. Do you see what's going on here? This doesn't make you happy, does it? No. So let's be happy and separate. Like, it makes sense. And she's like trying to guide him to the place that she's at. And I think that's why she's been able to stay calm through so many of these conversations, because he gets super wound up. There's times he's yelling. There's multiple conversations that were just awful to watch. And the entire time, like, she seems super calm. And I was like, I think she's just so beyond it. And she knows she's going to be blamed. And she knows that it's all going to be her fault. And she's already aware of all of that. She knows she's going to make people sad, that it just doesn't have the same effect on her. And she's just trying to like lead everybody to this place of like, we all know that this is coming. Let's not act surprised here.
No, and the fact that Cody acted surprised at all was it was very frustrating to see. Like, there have been signs all along. You cannot expect your wives to hang on, all of them, like Mary has been holding on. That's not going to happen. It's not healthy. Why would you even want that for them? If you love them, why would you want them to suffer? And I know that he will try to blame all over the place here about the fact that they weren't loyal, weren't respecting him. Where the heck is the respect and the loyalty to your women, to your wives? Show some of what you're demanding to them. You're not this king of the world, and they just have to bow down before you. And I know that in polygamy, sometimes it comes across that way. But he, from the beginning, has wanted, or at least claimed that he wanted his wives to have some independence and to be able to live on their own in some cases. And now he's flipping it around and blaming them for having some independence. Sorry, here we go. I'm trying to hold it in. But yes, where is the loyalty? Where's your loyalty? Well, that's what I want to know.
I think even in the one-on-one, like Mary mentioned this. So in one of the conversations Cody's having with Christine, well, like, Mary's staying and doing this. And Christine's like, I don't want what Mary had. I don't want a marriage like what you and Mary have. I'm not interested in that. I don't want the marriage that we have. Like, I don't want either of this. Why are you hanging on to something that you always say how miserable you are? This doesn't make sense. And I think Mary's the one who was like, I can't believe that they're comparing it to me. And also, by the end, she's hurt at the fact that Cody's so upset and so frustrated and trying to hold on so tightly to Christine's marriage, even though it wasn't great. But he says that he doesn't even have a marriage with Mary.
Right.
So she's like, okay, so all the things that you say, like, you want her to do, you want her to fight, you want this and that. He's being such a hypocrite because he's doing all of that to Mary, the same thing that he blames Christine doing to him. Oh, well, you just decided without me that we were done. You just decided this, you just decided that. It wasn't a mutual decision. And Mary's like, you decided we're done. It's not a mutual decision. You've decided this, you've decided that. And Cody's treating Mary over here the same way Christine is treating Cody on this side, and he's mad about it.
Right.
And the whole thing was just like Cody constantly contradicting himself, right? So he's talking to Christine and, well, I didn't want to move out and I didn't want to, my stuff to be moved out. But, well, I guess it's true. I was never attracted to you and I only married you because of the pressure. So it's like every single step of the way, you're just like, what part of this sounds like you want her to stay?
Right.
And then yet every time he's talking to a camera, he's like, I just don't want this marriage to fall apart and I don't want this marriage to be ending. Like, it is so confusing and conflicting. And I get that his stages of grief of having a wife leave him, which personally I think are all egocentric. I think Christine mentions that in the one-on-one. She's like, it just hurt his ego. That's the only reason that he's so upset by it, is that he's mad that it's going to make him look bad.
He even admits that.
Yeah.
He even said,
oh, yeah.
Did you want to say word for word?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. He said something along the lines of, I'm a polygamist. It's all about ego.
Yep.
It's all about what? And he also said something along the lines of, it's not love for me, it's respect. You don't respect me, I don't care about your love. I need your respect. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, Senor King of the world. I don't understand him. Yeah. I really, really, really don't. And he always comes, well, everything always comes back to COVID, because that showed their true colors. And he always says, you didn't respect me. You weren't loyal to me. You didn't follow my rules. If you're in a marriage, shouldn't you also be trying to follow the rules of your spouse, trying to come together as a family? You know, you can't just pick one person that will listen to you and bow before you. And because that person is willing to do that, that is the only person that is a part of the family now. And he has little kids. That's the thing. It's not just the wives. He has little kids in these other families, with these other wives, that he is, I don't know. What? They're no longer important because their parents aren't willing to bow down before me.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And I think too, when he was talking about, it's all about ego, he was saying that he married Christine because she was polygamy royalty and she wanted to get married, and he thought it would make him look good in the church. And so, but again, it's like he goes through these, I only married her because of my ego and I wanted to look good in the church. And I was never attracted to her, and this, and this. And then he uses his grief as like an excuse for any time he lashes out. Well, can't you see I've been going through a hard time and I got left, and can't you see the effects that it has on me? And that's why Janelle needs to be more in line, because can't she see how hard this is for me? Mm-hmm. So it's like he beats anybody with whatever stick is going to work at that moment. And in the meantime, just constantly contradicts himself, even about COVID stuff.
Right.
So like in this season, it's a constant contradiction, right? Like if he's going to his friend's wedding, then it's okay. Now at this point, throughout this season, you even hear them talk about like there's vaccinations, there's the instant tests being done. And so, I mean, the first time they get together as a family, everyone just took rapid tests. But at one point, Christine's talking about the fact that like Gwendolyn had been vaccinated. And so there's members of the family who are vaccinated at this point, and he's making exceptions to the rules in some cases and not in others. And he keeps saying it's because he doesn't want to be looked at as a hypocrite, but his lack of flexibility as things were changing in the COVID world, things changed constantly throughout COVID from the very beginning, even the CDC, and not because of anyone's fault. As they learned more about COVID, things changed, because as you learn, you should progress and change things based on the knowledge and information that you have. Right. As the vaccines came out, things should change, right? Like there's all these things that should be changing, and he's trying to appear to not change to these wives over here and also appease wives over there. And it's just this constant, but then when they went to go say goodbye to Christine, it's still COVID time. You guys can't hug her goodbye. Only I can say goodbye to Truly. I'm the only one who's allowed to hug her.
So, two things here. First, I will have to admit that some of his, hey, I'm the king and I'm the ruler, do come because of the religious beliefs that he had. We do have to admit that, yeah. Right? And polygamy oftentimes does come across that way, that there is a ruler of the home and everyone should obey that person. It's very patriarchal. That we do have to admit. But along the lines of this COVID stuff, how quickly did he come up with a plethora of excuses about now it's okay to not abide by his rules of COVID when he wanted to go and officiate a wedding? How quickly did he come up with those excuses? Where were all those excuses because you love and want to be with your family?
Yeah, and I don't even know if like excuses is even the making plans and accommodations for things that are important to you.
Because they were important to him.
Because they were important, right? And that's the thing about COVID is throughout the entire time, if there were things that needed to happen, people could make certain choices and decisions to make things happen that were important, like Isabel's surgery. okay, the surgeons there weren't being risky and being all willy-nilly about COVID. They knew the implications of it. There were certain protocols, certain quarantines, certain this, certain that, the way they handle the procedures, who was allowed to be there, how many people, the masking. Like, there's all these rules, and there's always these accommodations if it was worth it to you, right? And Kody even admits later that the reason that he didn't go to Isabel's surgery was because, well, I can't be away from my kids for 6 weeks. Okay, first of all, Isabel's your child too. And being away from other children for 6 weeks because you are with the person who needs you most at that time seems like a no-brainer. It's very, very frustrating. But Sam had a good point as we were watching that. He's like, he wouldn't have even needed to be there for the full 6 weeks if he couldn't be. He could have gone and quarantined with them, been there with her through the surgery, and left like a couple days after the thing. Like,
he could have just spent a few days there to be there when she went into the surgery, be there for your child when she gets out of the surgery. If at that point you need to rush home, then, you know, even if you have to quarantine, you know, you don't have to be there the whole time. You can go home, quarantine for a little bit, and then be with the rest of your family. But
there could have been accommodations. Exactly. Yeah. It all came down to priorities. And then he would constantly blame COVID for the family falling apart, even though every single person in the family talks about the fact that it was all like this before COVID even happened.
Right.
You know, Janelle's big, like bringing everyone together. And why do you want to be a sister wife? Why is everybody here? What is everyone looking for? That happened before COVID started. That Janelle wanted to sit down and have a serious conversation with everybody. So this isn't like new crazy information. And I feel like Kody just uses COVID as the excuse so that he can try to push off blame any which way he can. If he wants to blame, well, it's because my wives weren't loyal over, you know, during COVID, and that's why the family broke apart. It's over here. That's why the family broke apart. This is why my sons and I don't have a relationship, not because he's not willing to communicate properly with his children. It's always like pushing out the blame to every single thing he possibly can and try to protect his ego in the meantime.
I really hope that some of the things Kody said were him just spitballing craziness, and later he regrets it and he's not the person that he comes across as on screen. I really, really hope that. I don't like to just judge people immediately based on what they say, but like I said, I wish it was a movie and these were actors, because if it is the way that he is, then, man, I sure hope it's not worse when he's off camera.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, typically people would put their like best foot forward if they're being filmed, right? And if that's the best, like if we're seeing the best of the Brown family, which there were definitely times I know like in Vegas where you're like, oh, it looks like everything's going well. And then now you're hearing, okay, this and this and this were happening behind closed doors or when the camera stopped rolling. So obviously we know that we're just seeing little glimpses of their life. But if like this is the best they can do with their acting skills when the cameras are on them, typically I would say that's a sign that things are worse behind the scenes, not better. Right. And when you're seeing, I don't know, it's just interesting to see how much you can see in this season. And I don't know if they've just given up trying to like put on a show.
I know. It seems like they're being a lot more honest.
Yeah.
Especially the wives are just being very honest with what was actually going on. And we're talking before they even moved to Lehigh, like way, 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 way back in the beginning, before Christine and then before Robin and everything. This is where I start to think, for this family, polygamy was a problem, a very big problem. It was never going to work with the personalities that were here. And really, especially once the kids started to grow up and move out of the house with those wives that had older children, Kody just completely lost interest in them, it seemed like, once their children started moving out of the house, which says a lot about his relationship with that wife. Mary, for example, when Mary's child moved away from home, there was at that point, it seemed like there was no hope after that for Kody and Mary.
Yeah.
So
it's sad to see. At one point, Janelle does get COVID. Her boys get COVID. And this is earlier on in the season. And in the last season, Cody's having a talk with his boys, and he's like, the reason I have to be so careful is because, like, if your mom gets sick, who's going to take care of her? It's going to be my job. Cody was making it seem like he was going to take care of his wives if they got sick. And Janelle's boys were like, we would. You're not gonna come take care of her. You're gonna like avoid her like the plague, which is what he did.
He seemed shocked by that too, by the way. When Gabe said, oh, I would take care of her, he said, oh, well, that wasn't supposed to be the answer. The answer was supposed to be that I would be the one taking care of her. And Gabe was like, yeah, where have you been for the last year?
Yeah.
Right?
And then she gets it, and
just like Gabe said,
taking care of her.
He had to avoid the house because there was COVID in that house, so he had to avoid it.
Yes. But then when all of Robin and her kids start getting COVID, and one of their children, wasn't their kids that got it first? Yeah. And they start getting COVID, instead of avoiding the house, Cody goes to try to take care of them and ends up getting it himself.
And he got a COVID test and came back negative. So at that point,
he could have gone to Janelle's house
and
quarantined.
If all homes were equal, he could have gone to another home or Mary's house to quarantine, to stay away from those that had COVID. Well, that did not happen. He jumped right in. He was there the whole time. He gets COVID. And of course, according to him, he almost died. But it was very, very different. It was very clear to us where his priorities lay.
Oh, absolutely. And granted, everybody that got COVID had different symptoms. And that was very real in the world too. Like, there were people that you wouldn't think would get hospitalized that were hospitalized. There were people that you would think would be at a way higher risk, and they barely had any flu-like symptoms. So it really was so random depending on each person. And, seeing this too, it's hard to even know or compare anybody's, and you don't really... It's frustrating to hear later Cody compare his COVID, like, couldn't everyone see that I was on death's door and this and that? And I'm like, for all we know, we didn't get a lot of footage of Janelle. She had like 2 little excerpts that was like, yeah, I'm not feeling very well. I feel like I have the flu. That was it. And she wasn't, and Janelle's not like a whiner, poor me mentality type of person. Right. She wasn't going to call and make Cody come over and take care of her, because she was big on, if the house isn't safe for you, Cody, then let's not have you come over, And so you're seeing that, and then you're seeing Cody, and then he's bringing up later how it was the worst thing ever for him, and he had it way worse than everyone else. And I'm like, why are we comparing instead of just being grateful that everybody's okay? Scary for Robin to go to the hospital. She went to the hospital, found out that everything was okay and that she was just super sick, and went home and got better. And I don't know. It's just one more thing that, like you said, reveals that It's more than just about COVID. And Gabe said that last season. Oh, He's like, if we all get COVID and everybody gets better, we're going to realize this was never about COVID.
Well, and of course, Cody is going to say that it was a big part of the way things was because of COVID. But yes, at this point, we know it was never about COVID. COVID was a part of everyone's life for a period of time, but the breaking apart, the falling apart, the priorities, putting priorities here and not over there, it was never about COVID, honestly. No. I don't think, not for a second. And I do have to admit that, I know I probably shouldn't say this, but we've talked about this, and there's no way that Robin didn't have something to do with the rules that Cody came up with. And honestly, I'm not saying that Robin is this monster that was trying to break up the family. There's rumors about that. I don't see that, honestly. I don't see that she was trying to break up the family, but I do see that she had a huge impact on the way that Cody was and acted.
And still, it's definitely one of those that I think in the tell-all, Cody was like, so if I have a good relationship with Robin, am I supposed to be sorry for that? And Robin is like, am I supposed to be sorry for the fact that I have a good relationship with my husband? And the answer to that is no, obviously not. Like, I don't think it's Robin's fault that she has a good relationship with Cody. I think they obviously mesh. Cody is at fault for only listening to one wife and saying, I want to be in plural marriage, and then not acting accordingly. Like, he's the one at fault here, not Robin for that. Even if Robin wanted to be a monogamous right from the beginning, and she's like, I don't want any of these, which again, I don't think most of her actions show that throughout all of these seasons. Even if she did, it's Kody's job to be like, no, we're not a monogamous couple. I have to be like this for all of these wives. Like he said to Christine, when Christine wanted apparently more attention, or when anybody else wanted more attention, or they weren't being good sister wives. Apparently, then Kody's putting them in their place and telling them they need to be better sister wives. So if that's what Robin was doing from the beginning, acting like she wanted to be a monogamist and didn't want the plural lifestyle, it should have been his job to put her into her place. Not, oh, okay, sounds good. But it's because they actually have a good relationship that he's going to listen to her. And it's just sad and his choice that he wasn't choosing to respect the other wives the same way that he respected and listened to Robin.
Yeah. I would like to hear someone that knows everything. So
we know some of you out there.
If you're that person,
more than us, for sure.
To define to me a good sister wife. How is that possible? I want to know how that is possible. I grew up in a home with 4 moms, and I'm not saying that my moms didn't try. They all were working very hard to work together as a family, and maybe that would be considered good sister wives. But in the big scheme of things, I don't think that the way that Kody is saying you weren't a good sister wife, I don't think that what he would hope is a possible outcome for multiple women with one man. There's going to be jealousies. There's going to be moments where this man is giving too much attention to another wife. There's going to be problems. There's never going to be this kumbaya, everything is great, when there is humans involved with human tendencies, which include jealousy. That's just never going to happen. Yeah. So I can't blame, even if Christine was being a bad, quote unquote, bad sister wife and not wanting to deal with the other women in the family. I don't think she's a bad person. I think that for her, polygamy just wasn't the right thing. And she was raised with it, so you can't blame her for trying and thinking that it's what God would want her to do. But I don't think that it was ever for her, and it's just sad that it took her so long. And of course, they look back now, and they have these wonderful children, and of course, Christine's never going to say, I wish I didn't marry Kody because of the children they have together. But at the same time, after they had truly, I almost wish that she would have, I wish that when they moved to Flagstaff, she would have said, no, thank you, I'm staying here. That's, it's just sad that it drug out so long.
Yeah, and then you have Mary, who's dragged out even longer. But even
some of that's Mary's fault.
Yeah.
Sorry, I have to admit that.
It's true.
She could be gone. And I know that it's a lot, she says anyway, that it's a lot about her faith, which I understand. But man, there's no love coming from Kody for her.
No, absolutely not. I just wanted to mention too, Christine was having the same wondering, like, what does Kody mean by this? Like, that she's been this terrible sister wife and she's treated Robin like dirt. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm not a mean person. And she's going back and forth about all this. And then in the one-on-one, Kody kind of reveals that apparently if a sister wife talked about another sister wife to him, that was being a bad sister wife. And she was like, that makes more sense because Kody would vent to me about so-and-so. And so I would chime in, like, and she's like, I thought we were complaining to each other as husband and wife about somebody. And I didn't realize that me saying that was going to make him think that I was a bad sister wife. So I think too, the definitions, like you said, of what makes a bad sister wife or a good sister wife. And then at the end of the day, obviously for Kody, it was all about the loyalty or how he perceived what they thought of everyone is what matters. He's very much a like one strike and you're out type of person. And it reminded me a lot. I know we made this comparison last time too, so I'm sorry. Kody and Warren Jeffs are not similar in most ways. Okay, so I'm not trying to say that. But in polygamy, Warren Jeffs was the same way with his wives, that if they did something once, he would cut them out and make them have to like earn their place back with intimacy. And we had mentioned that with Christine. And then here he was also saying with Mary, like it was all cut off. And then she made me Rice Krispie treats and I almost thought of taking her back. right?
Which
the
I
whole rest
I
of-
don't buy that.
No,
I don't buy that.
it for a second.
Maybe he had 5 seconds of oh, I love her. Maybe.
That's so nice.
But
She loves me. Maybe I could love her back, and then not throughout the rest of the date. But just saying, the fact that it's these one little thing of disloyalty, and now like, okay, well, you're done. Oh, Janelle, you pick your kids, or you're not willing to kick your kids out of the house during COVID because I want you to. Oh, okay, well, now I'm done with you.
Yeah.
And emotionally done, right? And then I'm going to pretend like I'm sticking around even though I'm not, because that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it's just always about his ego and being able to look the right way.
Something else that I have to wonder, and I'm sure you've all thought of this already, but the time frame here, they will have a conversation. For example, Kody and Janelle will have a conversation, and then they will admit that, oh, I haven't seen so-and-so for a few months.
Months?
And then magically in that episode, they see each other again. I wonder if Kody being there physically on occasion is partly because of the show, and the show kind of forcing him to go have these conversations with his wives because they're his wives. Yeah. But how much of it is forced because of the show that they're on?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And obviously they're making money from the show, right? So it's a job. So like, he can't just continue to ignore them. He has to have certain interactions in order for the show to work. Which
also makes me wonder if he is, I don't know, how much of this is staged. Is Kody acting this way for publicity?
Is Kody mad that Christine's leaving because he thinks he won't get a show renewal?
I don't. There's so many questions. When you have to see someone's life on television, the truth behind it all is not always as it seems. That's all we have to admit that, right? Like, it's a show. It's a show. But the fact that he is saying things in front of his wives, clearly it's not just a show, because we have wives that are just up and leaving because they can't deal with it anymore.
Yeah.
So there's some truth to it.
The other thing that I kept wondering along these lines of the show being the show and the work and the money between the houses and Coyote Pass and Janelle living in a trailer, all these things, right? What does Kody do? What does he do? I know we say that about the nanny. What does the nanny do? Yeah. What does Kody do? Because there kept being contradicting things from each wife about what Kody does, right? So Janelle says he can't be at Janelle's house because he can't be away from Ari and Saul for more than 2 nights. So he needs to be there, and he takes good care of the little kids for Robin. So that's why he's always at Robin's house. Then Robin says that he's too busy for her to ever ask anything of him to do with the kids. And so that's why she has to have a nanny, because she can't ask things of him. She would never try to ask him because he's too busy. So if he's not busy taking care of the kids, and that's why he's avoiding Janelle, and he's not being asked to take care of the kids from Robin because he's just such a busy person, I just want to throw out there, what does Kody do?
Yeah, and he talks about these different business partners that he has and things like that, but I don't know. I don't know how much of his time he was claiming to be quarantining the entire time during COVID. So what was he busy doing? What was he busy doing while sitting at the house? I don't know. Maybe I've noticed he likes working with his logs in his backyard. Maybe he's trying out for Highland Games or something. Maybe he's trying to flip a log back there. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense to me. We've heard rumors about some cells type stuff that he did. I just don't know if it's true. But because the show never shows what he's actually doing. All the show is showing is that he is not having enough time for some families and is needing to spend all the time with other families, which, by the way, you mentioned he couldn't be away for when he's with other wives. He says, I need to get back home because I can't be away from my 2 youngest for more than 2 days. And then he goes to a wedding and he says he's gone for 4 days. And that was fine. Once again, it just comes down to priorities. It's just what matters to him. He'll make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just hard to watch this whole thing, him going back and forth, him needing to be there for the little kids, him letting his relationship with his older kids completely just go to crap. And not trying to communicate himself with his kids. He wants to blame his wives for all of his wives are turning their children against him. And we're like, well, that can't happen if you were having good communication with your kids yourself. If it's all a telephone game, then sure, I guess there can be spins on it. But if you were actively involved in their lives, you wouldn't be able to have that same type of influence, right? Or you see McKelty, first of all, she has her baby, super cute. And, she's comes and visits and she's like, hey, Robin, like, even though my mom's leaving, we still love you. We want to have a relationship with you. She's still totally fine with that relationship. And then when Cody is like, well, I feel like I'm the one that has a strained relationship with everyone now. And McKelty's face said it all. She was like, well, that's a you problem, basically.
Yeah.
And McKelty was like, I think the other adult children are down to have relationships with people who actually care about having a relationship. And so Robin has a good relationship with McKelty. McKelty and Tony and Robin get along just fine. They went and visited her. If Cody puts no effort or wants to blame their mom every time they see him, then he's not gonna have a relationship with them for very long like that.
It does not seem like Christine is pitting her children against the other families. Now, is she being honest about her feelings and her relationship with Cody? Because,
yes.
And that's the point. That's my point, is just being honest about it, especially with your adult children, right? Because she didn't come out and tell Truly for a very long time, because Truly's young and she wants to protect her little heart, right? But with her adult children aren't babies. They want to know, and they're going to ask tough questions. Just by being honest about her relationship with Cody, it's going to sound very negative because he's not there for her. It's not going to sound good in a marriage if the husband is never there. There's going to be complaints. And like it or not, that wife or the spouse of the person that's not there is going to figure out a way to move on without you if you're never there. That's just going to happen. And so I think that, especially during COVID, things just naturally happen the way that they were going to happen if a husband isn't willing to be there with his wife.
Well, and you had mentioned, too, that Cody always took this pride in the fact that it wasn't supposed to be a patriarchy, right? Like, oh, this is all community decisions, and we make these decisions together, and I have 4 strong, independent women as wives. And in the first season, he brags that up, basically, that he has these strong, independent women. And, Janelle in this season is like, you're changing the rules on me. You've always acted like it was good that I was independent and I can't sit around waiting for you to help me make every decision because you're too busy for me. And so then when I do make decisions, and I remember writing down, like, he lets the women make their choices and then he punishes them later for it. So he was constantly in this state of agreeing with Janelle, like, oh, okay, oh, yeah, if that's what you want to, oh, well, everyone gets to make their choices. He even said that so many times during COVID. Well, everyone gets to make their own choices. Everyone makes their own choices. Yeah. And then when they made a choice he didn't like, he's either saying behind their backs in interviews or later down the road, pulling it as a card against them and being like, well, you made that choice and that was your way of showing disloyalty to me. And Janelle's like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You said that I was supposed to make choices. You said that that's how it was, that it wasn't a patriarchy. That's not what I signed up for. And now he's saying, well, the rest of you that are here now need to conform to my patriarchy. And if you don't get in line, then the next person can walk, type thing.
Yeah, I've got to wonder where that came from, because it seems so different from the beginning of the show. Like you said, he was kind of happy to have the independent wives, or at least he claimed to be, that, yeah, this is just the way it is. This is who we are. We're so amazing. And then later, after Robin, it seemed like and it could be 2 different things. It could be that he just actually loves Robin, and so it just is easier to be with her and work with her, because if you love someone, then you'll make it work, right? But the other thing is that maybe it depends on how many strings Robin is actually pulling. Mm-hmm. Let's step to the side here and just go along with what they're claiming, that Robin isn't the one pulling the strings, and Cody just is loving that she's so loyal and respects his decisions so much. If that's the case, then maybe he just finally got a taste of a woman that is willing to, for lack of better words, bow before him and do his will. And he says, oh, I like this. this is way better. And now I want all you other women, I don't care about the last 30 years. Now I want all of you to do the same thing. Go, bow. And if you don't bow, then we have a problem, because guess what? I'm the patriarch of this house.
That's basically what Janelle's attitude towards the end of the season was basically that. Like, okay, well, if I'm not going to be exactly like Robin, then you don't want me anymore.
She basically said those exact words, right? Yeah.
And that was kind of her. I mean, in the one-on-one, they say that they're separated. Janelle's like, I don't really miss him. It's fine. We know that Janelle leaves in season 18. Mary leaves in season 18. Although it's pretty clear. I feel like season 17 sheds some very needed light for Mary as to how little Kody cares. I don't know how she didn't see it by now, but for whatever reason, and particularly she says for religious reasons, she kept waiting around, kept hopeful. I think she also had in her mind the big picture of the family. She mentioned that all the time. And then once the rest of the family's not there and she's looking around like, okay, so you're sad about Christine. You don't give a crap about me. The big family's not even here anymore. So I can either hang out with you and your monogamous wife, Robin, or not. And that's obviously why she leaves in season 18 as well, right? Like there's nothing even left for her to try to profess to hold on to. Right. With Mary, and I could be completely off with this observation here, but part of me wonders if the reason for her sticking it out so long is over guilt of the catfishing situation. Oh, yeah. I think so because of that guilt that I did this, she won't leave. She has to prove her faithfulness. And so I wonder if part of that is the reason she hung on for so long. But it's very clear in season 17 that she has chosen the side of Kody and Robin. In many instances, she was on their side. And very clearly, cut and dry, Christine and Janelle were on the other side. So there was no question there. But I do wonder, because she's got to know at this point, right? Mary's got to know that Cody's never coming back. Well, and I think even the producers asked Mary at one point, like if she was jealous of Christine leaving, because Mary I was so surprised by everyone's reactions, honestly. Kody acted like it was this huge blindsidedness that Christine left. And you're just like, okay, but you haven't really cared that much about even seeing her. So why is that so surprising? Robin is acting heartbroken that she doesn't want a relationship with her. And you're like, okay, Robin, can you please tell me off camera how many times you call, text, like how many times did you hang out with Christine in the last 2 years? And tell me why you are so sad and crying about the loss of that relationship. And then Mary was just ticked. Like she seemed mad. And the producer asked, like, are you jealous of her leaving? And she's like, I'm not jealous. Like, I'm just mad because she's, breaking up the family and I didn't do that. But by the time the one-on-ones come, her faces at her past reactions were even just like frustration. Like just frustration at the whole situation. And Mary's getting new information of things Kody said and how Kody doesn't care that they have a marriage and all this stuff. I mean, I think Mary even said Christine declaring divorce belittles our faith. And at this point, it was interesting to kind of take a temperature on where everybody is in their faith, because Mary was still saying she's still here because of her commitment and what she felt like was right. Janelle says that she still has faith in plural marriage and that she's still strong in her faith. She didn't really. Did she say in her faith, or because she said she had faith in plural marriage? But I don't know if she still. I thought she had mentioned later that she does. She? Okay. Because she said it's hard for her to figure out where Christine fits in within the religion, because she's like, the dogma would say this, but if Christine doesn't subscribe to it anymore, then it makes sense that it wouldn't apply to her anymore. And it seems like Janelle's trying to figure out exactly where she believes that all lies. Christine's very clear that she doesn't believe in the faith. She doesn't believe in plural marriage. And so to her sealing is null and void. And then you have Robin, who's like, no, until she consummates a marriage with someone else, then she's stuck with us in the eternities, which is kind of hilarious, right? I don't know that maybe the AUB teaches that, but based on my knowledge of the AUB, Robin doesn't really understand the faith when it comes to that. Typically, when it comes to sealings, like within Mormonism or any type of covenant, if you are not worthy of that covenant, or you are like breaking. If you said you didn't believe in it anymore, or you're walking away from the faith, that covenant is void now because you're not worthy to receive the blessings of that covenant in the next life.
Yeah, you denied your faith, therefore you don't believe it anymore, and therefore your covenant has been broken. And I think that's kind of where Christine is. I mean, she doesn't even believe in it, but she's just thinking, I don't believe it anymore, therefore I broke it, I'm done, I'm not dealing with this anymore.
And
I don't believe it's
Janelle
important.
understood. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so...
Yeah, it was so seeing the covenant side of it. And then Cody seems like he doesn't really know what he believes at the moment. Like sometimes he's like, I'm trying to reconcile my beliefs with this and trying to figure out what to do in a situation, because typically if they were all still in the faith, they'd have to go through a certain process to get a divorce. So having it be declared, I could see it being really weird where like they're walking away.
Here's the thing about Cody though, is I feel that he claims to have his religious beliefs when it benefits his agenda. I'm just being honest here, because when it comes to Christine leaving and not Robin, yes, Robin is talking about, oh, you need to go to the church and you need to get the permission to have this divorce and all these things, and you see Cody nodding his head, yeah, and then on the other hand, he has apparently divorced or left Mary without going to anything religiously and trying to get his papers or whatever they're supposed to do.
Mary points that out.
So it doesn't seem like Cody actually believes unless it benefits what he's trying to get across. You know, if he has a specific agenda. I don't know. I'm not even sure what he believes, honestly. I don't think he has faith in his religion, though.
No, not at this point. It's very interesting to see that side, which kind of brings to the question that I wanted to kind of close with, which is it the Brown family that's the problem? Does the Brown family not fit into plural marriage? Does plural marriage not fit with the Brown family? Is it just plural marriage for everyone would end up this way? Can you be happy at all in plural marriage? So where are the lines of, just like you said earlier, of like, do sister wives, what's the definition of a good sister wife and a not good sister wife? What's the definition of a good plural family to you after growing up in polygamy?
Well, I think that the only way really that polygamy works is going to be there being a head of the house, which kind of comes around to patriarchy, right? That seems to be the way that it works, because this person is making the decisions and people are obeying. Now, me personally, I don't think that that is the way to have a marriage. That's how it worked in my family. It was very patriarchal. That's just the way the religion was. Those were the teachings being taught. That's the way it was in my home. But I do feel that my moms in the home did try hard to get along with each other and to follow the rules of the home. So if that's ultimately what it comes down to, then the question is a patriarchal home a good way to live?
No, that's a very good point. The other question too is patriarchal rules. Are those easier to follow as a group of women, as a group of sister wives, than if you feel like the rules are made up between a husband and one specific wife? If you truly knew that every single rule was purely, and I'll just use the Browns as an example, if every rule was 100% Cody's idea, no input from any of his wives, it was 100% just his, would it be any easier for these women to have followed all of his rules if they didn't think that Robin had been a part of those rules, or that one wife was guiding him in a direction, which was apparent not even in Flagstaff, everywhere, right? All the wives would say you could tell what house he'd come from because his ideas and his things that he was saying and doing, you could tell somebody had influenced.
Yep.
And that his personality was different based on who he had spent time with and who he had conversations with. So to be truly patriarchal is actually kind of hard, to not take any real input in any favoritism way, right?
Well, but I will say in my home, it wasn't like my parents, the four wives, and my father, it wasn't like they didn't communicate. They even had meetings where they would all gather together to discuss certain things.
Okay.
So I don't think that it was him not valuing their opinion, but ultimately they all knew, and he knew that he would make the final decision.
Okay.
I think that in the Brown family, it was majority rules. So
Well,
if it's
if two sister wives agree, it's a fact, right?
yeah, if it's three sister wives versus Cody and another sister wife, the three sister wives are correct.
It's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that wasn't the way it was in my home. So it was just a very different. I'm not surprised, honestly. I'm not surprised at all that the relationships in the Brown family between the parents did not last. It's not surprising. From the moment that I started watching the show, well, I know I started with season 18, but I guess I kind of got a sneak peek into the end before going back to the beginning.
We read the last chapter
But
first.
yeah, how dare we? But either way, when I started watching season 18, after hearing and seeing flashbacks, it was not surprising. I thought, oh, wow, well, that's probably going to happen in every situation where there are so many people with so many opinions. Add on jealousy to that, good luck.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I think the only way you can is if you either love no wives at all and you're purely just trying to raise up a seed, which
Right.
there's certain polygamous groups that are like that, right? Where the husband doesn't really try to make a connection with any of them and it's just about raising your seed. I don't know if you can actually make a connection to none of them. Or maybe there's always one favorite wife. Not my point. Anyway, or you either have to have very little care for the majority of them, or it has to be, like you said, patriarchal.
Yeah. And yes, having equal relationships with all of your wives, I think, is another only way to make it work. Because, well,
and I don't think you can do that. You can't have equal
but you can at least pretend. I think that based on what I saw within the FLDS and multiple families, I think that the husband, if he did have a favorite, he was very good at pretending that he didn't. And so if all of the wives are feeling that they are getting equal attention, equal love, whether or not he feels differently, as long as that is what is being portrayed in the family, I think that they were ultimately okay with it. Granted, in the FLDS, it wasn't always left to the wives to choose anything. In some families, they had no choice. It was all about the head of the church, the head of the family, and the patriarchal rules, right? So once again, I do understand that every polygamous group is a little different. We know that in the Brown family, a lot of the women, or not a lot, supposedly the rule was that the women would choose the husband they were going to marry. So that was very different from the polygamy I was raised with.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I mean, in the one-on-one, Janelle says they're separated. We know what's to come. But even in this point, it's very clear that Cody is only spending time with one wife. And I've heard that there's a season 19 coming. I actually talked to someone that said they knew people personally that were going to be in season 19.
Yep.
And so that's definitely going to be a thing. And I'm very intrigued to see where Robin is going to be being a monogamous wife. And if she can let go of this idea that she apparently is holding on to of the plural family, and if they can let go and just be happy. I don't know. It would be interesting to see if Cody and Robin could truly let go of whatever guilt, ego, anything, and they would just be okay saying, you know what? We found each other and we love each other and we are happy together. I think everyone could respect that way more than in the one-on-one when Suki's like, so how do you feel about Robin and your relationship? I won't talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that. It's like, you can't even admit that you love the wife that you do love? It's so odd. So I guess we'll get to see how their monogamous relationship goes. And
honestly, I wonder, and of course we would have to see season 19 because how much of the focus of season 19 is actually going to be on Mary? Does she find love elsewhere? Janelle, does she find love elsewhere? The family unit. I mean, they don't have to focus primarily on Robin and Kody.
It's true.
So that's something to possibly hope for.
Yeah, hopefully. So if you would like to hear more of what it was like for Sam to grow up in polygamy, then please like and subscribe. And thank you guys for being on this Sister Wives journey with us.
Wow.
It has been quite the journey. We will leave, I'll leave a link above to a playlist of all of our Sister Wives reactions, season 1 all the way through season 18. If anybody, missed one or wants to catch up on those, I'll leave that above.
And if by some chance you're still listening, thank you all so much for your love and support through all of this. I know that Sister Wives, you knew from the very beginning when we started, you knew way more than we did about them.
Yes.
So we appreciate that you appreciate our opinion and our view on all of this. Thank you so much for your support.
Yes, we'll talk to y'all soon.
We'll talk to you soon.